one of the biggest misconceptions is people think that this is something that you can just Google and YouTube and Chat GPT your way to success, and it's not. If I was to take this whole complex system and just like turn it upside down and simplify, there's like 4 stages to navigating the government contracting space. And that would include like, number 1, not anybody can do this. So you have to have the right business foundation, right? And then step 2 is like the certifications, getting certified. And then there is like marketing, because we're talking about hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars. Why should they choose you over someone else, right? And then step 4, which is the most important key to unlocking the vault to creating generational wealth. We're talking about massive wealth, is knowing how to.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast. I'm excited because you already know, as you kick off the new year, you got to learn new skills. And today we are back with an expert, but not only an expert, but someone that really knows this space. And I know it's a really hot topic in government contracting. So I hope you're ready. I hope you're buckling up. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome the one and only Karwanna is with us rocking today. How are you doing, fam?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me. Great to be here.
Listen, I was excited that when you said, hey, look, let's do this. Let's make this happen for the podcast, because our audience right now is like, all right, Shawn, government contracting, we're seeing it pop up as being one of the most highly productive ways you can be lucrative and make money, but we don't truly understand it. So I want to ask you some questions right now to truly help someone think about how could they really be in this space. But before I do, take us back to like the younger you. A lot of our audiences, when they think about any new skill sets that we acquire, we kind of look back at traits and knowledge and things that we learn to get to where we are. So take us back to the young Karwanna growing up.
Oh my goodness. The young Karwanna growing up was like always creative and looking for ways to stand out from the crowd. I never wanted to be a part of statistics or anything else that was going on around me traditionally. So I was the one that, spent a lot of time in the library, applying for like college applications, if you want to go back that far, So that was me. But I was always like really gifted and talented in the music arena, right? So I was into music production, video production, like all these other things, skills that I still use today, but in a very different, innovative way, to basically make more money doing it. So, but yeah, that's traditionally the younger version of myself. I mean, I grew up in a family of 7. My mom had 7 children. So, it was 7 of us. I was smack in the middle, of course, middle class, working mom, of course, single parent, all that stuff. So, we have to be very creative in how we entertained each other. And so, you can just imagine what it's like to have 7 kids in the house.
Oh, wow. I can imagine, there's this cool thing though, when I think about it. If you're like the middle child though, the advantage is there is that you get to watch somebody older than you make majority of the mistakes, but it also be the example for somebody younger than you. So I can imagine how that could be, some really cool things that you might look at that might help you in business. And I want to talk about this government contracting, right? What got you to say, you know what, out of all these things that I'm currently liking and enjoying, this is something that I truly want to learn, but also teach people about?
When I first started in business, which is like over maybe 2 decades ago, it was a very long time ago, but I've only been in the contracting space for like 15 years. But when I first started, I originally left my, 9-to-5 job, like on a fluke, because I knew that there was something in business and, that was going to help me become highly successful. And I wanted to do something that, my mom, my father, my grandmother, like my aunties, like nobody else was doing, which was to like become a first generation millionaire, multimillionaire. I didn't know how I was going to do it. And honestly, I did not know that government contracting was going to be the gateway for allowing something like that to happen. Like most entrepreneurs, I started my business, chasing customers with the B2C business model, thinking that, Tamika with kids, who's married with a college degree, who makes so much money is going to be that client that's going to help me get there. But I made all the mistakes and I struggled for like 7 years in business. I barely made money. It wasn't until I actually met a highly successful Black man who was a multi-billionaire, who had told me, that government contracts was the way. Because I had asked him, like, how did you do it? How did you become so successful? How did you get out of the rat race of really trying to grow a business? And he said the same thing that I was selling to him, which was at the time was photography, video, and web design services. He said, I can sell that service to the government and they will pay me 100 times more than what he's paying. And so that's how I ended up learning and having this curiosity around, well, I didn't even know that you can do business with the government, being a regular just person, not military associate. Like, I've never been in the military, never served, I don't do anything that having to do with war weapons or anything. So I didn't even know that everyday skill set that I had as an entrepreneur is very highly sought after by government agencies.
Man, what I like about that story is that you were able to connect the dots, know that, hey, look, I want to do something different for my family. I want to be something that my family may have never seen, but it also could propel us for generations. And I want to break government contracting down, right? Let's simplify this right now so the audience can truly learn, right? Now that we know what inspired you to get into it, I want you to think about that beginner. How would you explain just the overall, the government contracting process to someone that just wants to know exactly what is it?
Well, basically, the same way that you would do business with a regular consumer, well, doing business with the government, which is considered like the B2G, business to government business model, is like selling one to many. If you're trying to build, especially like $1 million or beyond business, you got to think about when you're selling one to one, how much volume you have to have in clientele and, acquisitions in order to really achieve that. Like, that's why most entrepreneurs stay broke, because they're struggling chasing customers. Now, when it comes to the government, they are obligated to do business with, mom and pop shops, home-based businesses, small businesses, the little people like us. And it's more of a one-to-many business model, because now you're serving an entire agency on a larger purpose, solving a problem that, they're willing to put hundreds of thousands and even millions of dollars, behind. So, government contracting has been around, for hundreds of years. Like, I don't know even how far it goes back, but I do know that if you understand the Small Business Act of America, by law, these government agencies, which have multiple $trillion budgets annually, they are obligated to set aside and spend, at least 23 to 26% of all of their spending with small businesses, which is defined also by the Small Business Act of America, or the SBA, as a company that has under 500 employees and generally makes less than $20 million a year. So there's a lot of people that falls into that bucket. So how does it work? Well, we can get into that for sure. um, it's a lot of red tape. I would say definitely it's definitely a process, and we can get into that for sure.
I like how you're breaking it down, though, because you're making it really simple where we can get it. And I think someone listening right now are probably saying, okay, all right, I'm understanding a little bit more. What do you feel like are some of the biggest misconceptions in government contracting?
I think that one of the biggest misconceptions is people think that this is something that you can just, Google and YouTube and Chat GPT your way to success, and it's not. It's a very confusing, complex world. However, it can be very lucrative if you truly take the time to invest in knowledge and education on how to do this. Like, it pays off. If you understand how it really works. Like, there are several examples that are out there. And then, there's proven blueprints of how step-by-step to really do this. But I think the majority of small business entrepreneurs, they like to play around with making money. Like, they're not, at least the ones that I've seen who are not doing this and who are just trying to do guesswork and kind of they don't really understand the power of knowledge and applying, powerful knowledge as how to do government contracts successfully. There are 4 main strategic steps really that goes into this. I mean, of course, there's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of like micro steps into this. But if I was to take this whole complex system and just like turn it upside down and simplify, there's like 4 stages to navigating the government contracting space. And that would include, like, number 1, not anybody can do this. So you have to have the right business foundation, right? Being a qualified business is the first step to even getting your foot in the door or being sought after by government agencies. And then step 2 is like the certifications, getting certified as a small business, a woman-owned business, a veteran-owned business. Those are some of the steps that you can take to access opportunities that have been set aside for the most socially economically disadvantaged businesses, right? Which we all qualify for. And then there is like marketing, right? Just like any other business, you still have to know who the key decision makers are. You have to buy, sell yourself, sell the solution, and let them know why they should choose you. Because we're talking about hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars. Why should they choose you over someone else, right? And then step four, which is the most important key to unlocking the vault to creating generational wealth. We're talking about massive wealth, is knowing how to submit proposals, right? Because that is the bottom line way to actually win. If you're not submitting proposals because you don't know how, you have to learn how so that you can actually start winning, because you're not winning until you're in that game. So that's basically how it all works.
Oh, listen, I like this because you're breaking this down in a way where it's like, okay, I like this, but how can like small businesses, like if you're a small business is listening right now, you're probably like, okay, one, you got your pen, your pad, your paper. They're already looking you up on social media. They're already clicking on the profile, but they might already started buying products. But right now, if you're listening to what Karwanna is saying, she's truly breaking this down. If you're a small business, if I'm asking you one question, this is the question I would want to know from you, is how can small businesses make their proposals stand out more in such a competitive landscape so that they can win some of these government contracts?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I would say number one is you really have to understand the call to action, right? So it's like it's a call and response. Just like if you grew up in the church, so I grew up in a church where there's like call and response songs, right? And so doing business with the government is similar to that. It's a call and response thing. So they're basically putting out these opportunities, and there are hundreds of thousands of opportunities that they put out and publish daily across local, state, and federal government agencies. And they're basically saying, here's what we're looking for. This is the problem that we're looking to solve. And we just want to know, are you qualified? So number one is like, you have to ask yourself, well, what are the qualifications that they're looking for, and how can I meet those minimum qualifications? Most people make the mistake of thinking single, solo entrepreneur, like I am not qualified because I don't have 2 to 3 years of experience in this field. But it's not about you. The higher up you go, like as an entrepreneur, when you start getting into the revenue realms of like hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars and even billions of dollars, you wouldn't really realize that it takes teamwork. And there's a cliche word called teamwork is the dream work. Well, it is so very true when it comes to government contracting. So it's not about you. You have to figure out who, right? There's a book called Who Not How. It's like, who do I need to connect with so that I can now present myself as the qualified person for this opportunity. So teamwork, partnerships is going to be very key, but also understanding the assignment, right? You got to understand, what do they want you to do over what length of time, and understanding how to price that, that deliverable, but also understanding indirect and as well as direct costs that will go into it so that you can properly, submit a proposal that is highly competitive. Now, some of the ways that you can just basically do the research to see, is this going to be highly competitive, is to, call around. You got to do some work, like some footwork. Call around to a few people and ask for quotes. Well, what would you charge, if you were doing this for this particular type of a client? Or, and then, there are records that are out there, just footprints already left in the sand where, you can actually do public record research, because government contracts that have been awarded for all of these years are on public record. So you can do the research. Well, who was the incumbent before? Have you, awarded this before? Was it a similar scope? What did they charge? What was their award amount? And then just kind of reverse engineer. So that is how, those are like some of the key components to actually understanding how to properly pitch and win government contracts. Now, I will say, you're not going to win 100%, right, of everything that you bid. Nobody wins 100%, but you will win as long as you're bidding, right? So I would say, like, I go by what's the 10% rule when you're getting started. It's like 1 in 10 when you're getting started, because there's a huge learning curve, right? So if you're expecting to win one a month, you got to be, submitting at least 10 a month in order to do that, which is going to be like 12, 12 bids by the end of the year, but you've submitted 120 in order to win those 12. So now you get to understand the expectation of how much work you got to put in. But those 12 could be, 200,000 each, or a quarter of a million, or a half a million, or even 1.5 million each, or whatever. And so now you've already multiplied your wealth by learning how to do the hard work up front, but also do hard work smarter, because we're already working hard. Most people are working hard to make less than $100,000 a year. Now you get to work hard working with the number one biggest purchaser in the world that you could ever acquire as your client, and they already have the money for you.
Oh man, listen, if I could snip that up, like guys, if you're listening to it right now, it's probably the most replayed part right now. If you're listening or watching us on our YouTube channel, Schools Over Now What, that'll probably be the most replayed clip right there, because if you really listen to how she's breaking it down, you're understanding if you're really going to win some of these government contracts, what is the work that you're going to do from a research side to say, okay, I've learned this, I know this is why I'm the best candidate for this. And you're breaking it down in a way that's truly simplified. And I can imagine our audience right now wants to learn from you. They want to be students of yours. And out of selfish reasons, I also want them to learn more though. And one of the things I'm thinking about right now is just, could you share with us maybe a client success story or someone that you've worked with that may have to overcome some of these challenges to make, a government contract like some of the ones we've talked about actually be accepted for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So one client that I love to talk about is, her name is Kim Ali. She does trainings in diversity, equity, and inclusion. So, and cultural awareness and sensitivity. So she's a professional trainer. However, her primary position was as a traveling nurse. This is her industry. This is what was paying, making the bread. And that's how she was making her bread and butter. But she decided maybe like it's about 2 or 3 years ago to get into the GovCon space because she saw these opportunities. Most people don't know how to basically transition from what they're doing and correlate that to how they can actually position that to sell it to the government as a solution. She was one of those people who was curious about how she can transition the skill set that she already had to being something that the government will already, buy, right? And so, anyways, her first contract that she landed, she submitted, a few bids, didn't win right away, but she won her first contract within like 3 to 6 weeks, following a simplified system. And she was already qualified because she had attended my 5-day basically boot camp that prepares you on how to position yourself properly to qualify for these contracts. So she had won her first contract. It was for a 1-hour diversity training. Look, many people are like, affirmative action is out the door. Diversity, equity, inclusion is out the door. It's like, those are all just industry things that people are talking about. The government is still paying for those things. They may call it something different, but don't disqualify yourself because of the average people, conversation that they're having in the marketplace, because none of that is backed by facts, right? So the fact is, for a 1-hour training of her knowledge on teaching government agencies how to treat culturally diverse people, she was awarded it was like 23.5, it was a $23,000, $500 contract for 1 hour of her time. Now, what client does any regular person have that's getting paid $23,000 for 1 hour? Not very many, right? Not unless you're doing business with the government, right? However, even with that, because of the trend of government contracts and you can make millions of dollars, most people will be they will be discouraged, like, oh, it's only 23,000. It's not like millions of like what people say. However, she went on to submit more contracts, and the next contract was like 175,000 for similar work, like just a few days. And then her third contract was 2.7 million. Game changer. She quit her job. And now this is what she does full time. She became a multi-7-figure earner in a year's time, right? So I'm not saying that this is something that's going to happen for everybody. You have to already be that person that's willing to put in the hard work, right? And stay the race in order for that to be your result. But you can get results if you switch over to, incorporate government contracting as a business method way of generating wealth for yourself.
Oh man, I like this story so much. And again, right now, everyone's probably thinking the same thing. All right, if she learned all this in a 5-day challenge, does Karwanna have another one coming up? Is there something else that we can learn? Is there some way that we can learn some of those same type of skills? Tell us. I think about a 5-day challenge. What's in the works? What can our audience right now listening, our Schools Over Now What audience, what can we gain by going on a 5-day challenge with Karwanna, and when can we?
Sure. Good question. So I definitely want to clarify. She started in the 5-day challenge, but she excelled to having me as her coach over a 90-day period. So she excelled into a higher ticket coaching program after that, just because she had questions about how does this work along the way, so she would not get stuck. But getting started, of course, the prerequisite is understanding how it all works, how much money is on the table, how to position yourself, how to turn your service that you offer into value, into a 6-figure value that you can offer to the government. So this is what we cover in the 5-day challenge. It is not only a 5 days of transformational experience, but you will also understand that the business that you have, if you're stuck at 6 figures, is worth 10x more than that. This is where we kind of help you open up the eyes so you can do the research and see why I say it's worth 10x that. And when you do business with the right player, you can actually see that 10x in your bank account. So to learn more about the government contracting, of course, the GovCon challenge, of course, you can go to govconchallenge.com/schools out.
Okay.
School is out, right? So make sure you click on that link, get yourself registered for the next upcoming 5-day challenge. That is the beginning. It is the prerequisite. Beyond there, we can talk about if you qualify, to have me as your coach, over this 90-day period beyond, to learn how to bid and how to propose and all the other more technical things that just takes a little bit longer to learn.
Oh man, fam, listen, I appreciate you on the podcast. Absolutely crushed it. We had the schools out. Guys, make sure you click that link. If you're watching us on YouTube, it's already at the very bottom. We'll probably have it on the pop-up screen somewhere. If you're listening right now, make sure you click that link in the show notes so that you can learn, and you can really learn how to add government contracting to your wealth strategy. Right now, for our audience, they want to follow you. They want to make sure that they stay in touch. What's the best socials, and how can we make sure we're following on all platforms?
Absolutely. So on Instagram, it's Karwanna D Speaks. So check me out on Instagram. Karwanna D on Facebook if you're on Facebook. YouTube is Karwanna D. So youtube.com/Karwanna D. And I also have a book that you can check out, and you'll be imported into our email list where you'll continue to get great value. That book is called Don't Duck the Government. They've Got Your Money. And it's all about how you can make millions pitching and winning government contracts. So.
Oh, fire book cover. Put the book cover back up one more time. That book cover is fire. Don't duck the government. Go cop it, guys. We appreciate you for rocking with us. And for those of you who have been listening, always remember, dream it, believe it, go out and get it. We'll see you next week. Yo, what you think? I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I want to know what you learned. So if you wouldn't mind, would you take a screenshot of you listening to the podcast on your phone right now? Upload to your Instagram stories, tag me at Shawn Anthony _, and then let me know in that Instagram story what is one thing that you learned. I love hearing from you, my listeners, thought leaders, former or current students all around the world. Let me know, and while you're doing this, go inside the podcast app, subscribe, leave a 5-star review and a 5-star rating. Again, this helps us reach more people. And if you want to be a part of this mission, helping us change the world one person at a time, it makes a massive difference by you leaving a review. Thanks so much. I'll see you next week. And remember, dream it, believe it, go out and get it.